It's Big Board Sports with Roger Ryland on 104.5 The Team.
We are back. Ryan Russillo joins us from ESPN here on Big Board Sports. Good morning, Ryan. Roger Wyland, Chris Honorado in Albany on ESPN Radio. How you doing this morning?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Good, man. We appreciate a few minutes. I just start with the college football. Are you ready for the onslaught of these 41 bowl games?
Yeah, we lost track the other day because Danny and I were talking about who we liked the most, and he's like, Pitt. And then he just kind of stalled, and I thought, well, wait a minute, I have to ask him who he likes, like why he likes Pitt in their game so much, because he had it in his highest conference ranking, and he goes, I forgot who they played. I don't know.
But he really likes them. Really likes them. Yeah.
Well, I know that. I know this, Ryan. When I was trying to make case for Penn State to get in there in that Final Four, I did say, yeah, they lost to Pitt, but Pitt actually won at Clemson, so it wasn't that bad of a loss. I'm a Penn State guy and a little disappointed that Penn State's on the outside looking in, but happy to see that they're going to play Southern Cal in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, that's a great game, especially when you consider where this team was at the beginning of the year. When I would watch Penn State, I just thought it was a carryover of last season. They couldn't block, couldn't get time for the quarterback, they couldn't tackle anybody. I know they were missing a ton of linebackers, but I never really thought that James Franklin should have been fired considering what he was trying to build through. And I would talk with his agent about the limited scholarship numbers. And, anytime he heard me criticize Franklin, he would get on my case and go, look, you got to understand the situation. And he made it more clear for me. But then to think that you turn this thing around and they were, a decision in a boardroom away for playing for a national title. It's insane that they've turned this thing around, but they just don't want to get past the two losses. So I think the more we started talking into circles on why they were in or why they were out, it's pretty clear that the committee just wasn't comfortable with the extra loss.
Ryan, do you like the committee setup and the process that they go through to get to the Final Four?
I do. The BCS was terrible because it had the coaches poll in there. I mean, we don't even look at the coaches poll anymore, but it's only for entertainment. I mean, the coaches, there's certain teams they'll never give up on. If Nebraska's 4-1, they're 15th in the country, and it doesn't matter who they're playing. So the coaches poll is actually the worst of all of the options. The fact that was part of the formula to make up the BCS once the AP pulled themselves out of it, that made it even worse. So I like that we still have a regular season that matters as much as before. I think sports are better when we have this drama, even though it could be obsessive with how much we talk about how these teams are positioned in rankings that don't really matter before the final ones. But I don't know why anybody would be upset with a committee over this, knowing that there's no real perfect solution. Like, if somebody wants to present something to me that's foolproof, go ahead and do it, but none of us have that solution.
Well, I know Washington is not going to win. That I know. Against Alabama. I actually put a 41 next to that when I was filling out my pool for my father, Ryan, in Hempstead, North Carolina, which I've finished in dead last in every year. But who is going to beat Alabama? Do you give either Clemson or Ohio State a shot here?
Yeah, I do, because there's this weird thing with Alabama, and I've watched them all season and going to see them live, that there are times where Jalen Hurts, their freshman quarterback, who's been a great story, but there's times where he gets stuck. They get stuck offensively, and he's been bailed out anytime it's been challenging for him to throw the ball down the field by the defense or special teams. I mean, what they did to Florida, I think he completed 11 passes and ran it 8 times for 1 yard, and they humiliate a Florida team that had a great defense. So I do think that there are moments in games, and maybe it happens in the national championship, as you're alluding to them getting past Washington so easily. But I also think Clemson, there's a real power in the fact that these guys feel like they outplayed them other than the onside kick in the national championship. So they'll be 12 months removed with a ton of the players that are still on the roster from that game, so that Dabo doesn't have to convince them that they can beat Alabama. They'll already go into that game feeling like we should have beat them. They're not that much better than us. And I think that's a huge mental advantage that Clemson has that the other two teams can't have.
Ryan, I know you're a big hoops guy too, and we want to hit you with a couple of questions regarding the NBA. But before we do that, the current playoff format, I'm sure you love being asked this question 1,000 times. Do we need to go to 8? Do you want to move off, I guess, some of the drama that comes with just a select 4 and open it up to 8 teams?
No, I don't. I actually don't want it to be 8. I can't believe that the conferences would agree to a system where one of them is going to be left out no matter what every single year. Like, I can't believe they did that. And, the people that thought maybe 3 Big Ten teams get into this and just tee off against Alabama if Clemson had lost. Like, I never really understood that because I don't think the committee would have gone, yeah, this is good. We're going to leave out 3 of our partners
right.
here. But the reason I don't like 8, even though it would solve that problem, and I do get that, we're all huge college football fans. If you had to explain this to somebody that never followed it, you're like, yeah, every week, and then some teams sort of get the benefit of the doubt when they lose, and then a group of 12 to 13 people decide who's going to play the championship, they'd probably go, that's really stupid. And I think I kind of get their point. But the problem with 8 is that the arguments about 4, 5, and maybe even 6 this year, I don't want it expanded to 12 to 16. You know what I mean?
Right,
like, we'll start looking at teams that are 13th, 14th in the committee rankings going, well, wait a minute, why don't they have a shot at it? I mean, the one thing I like about college football, I mean, one of the many things I like, but is that the team that wins the national championship feels like they were the most deserving. And even though the NFL feels more wide open, when a 9-7 team wins a Super Bowl, I go, does that really mean that the best team just won the championship for this year? Does that mean that the Giants are actually the best team? And hell, I mean, we do 68 teams in the NCAA tournament, and we freak out about the 71st team that's left out with an 18-13 record. So I don't think I want to expand the conversation to teams that I don't think are deserving of playing for a national title.
Ryan, my only thing about that committee, I think they need to try and make it a little bit more clear to coaches, to ADs about what they're looking for non-conference, because Washington gets in there with a terrible non-conference schedule. I mean, do you need to play a good, tough non-conference schedule, or can you do what Washington did and still at the end of the day end up as one of the best teams?
Well, I look at the Washington analogy and just say, do you want to know what I got on the midterm? Do you want to know my grade for the year? It's 3 of 13 games with the 9th conference game in the Pac-12 and then the extra game in the championship. And I get your point. Like, that 127 out of 128 looks terrible, but we treated that 127 like it was 50% of the grade, and it really wasn't. So I get what you're saying, and I get that there doesn't seem to be any consistency. But what I would say, and talking to Kirby Hocutt every week this year and Jeff Long last season, the committee chairs, is they never want to be definitive in any part of the criteria, because if they said, yes, we rate conferences, okay, they say they don't take conference value into this. That's impossible. There's no way anyone in the room can sit there and just see, I don't see color. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't see conferences. Well, of course you see conferences. Of course there's conferences that you think are tougher than other ones, but they won't say it, because then if they say it, then they'll feel inclined to have to actually tell us their rankings in the conferences. They don't want to say that non-strength or non-conference strength of schedule is more important than other factors, because then we want to start keeping track of it. So they're actually brilliant the way they do this. They're very unclear because they never want to be held accountable to back up something they had said previously. They're actually great at being vague. So your point is absolutely accurate that it'd be great and it'd be better for ADs, but they'll be inconsistent with their explanation by design.
I am just a disgruntled, whiny Penn State guy up here in Albany, New York.
You should embrace the great season you guys had, Raj. Embrace that success.
And Ryan, I'm going to the Rose Bowl, so I'm going to have a good time ringing in the new year in Pasadena. Hey, NBA, a lot of New York Knicks fans. Chris said you do a lot with the NBA as well. What's your thought on this Knicks team right now?
Well, it's nice to see him get it going a little bit here, because I'd look at the team and I'd watch him and go, how is this team not going to make the playoffs, after the awful start? And now it makes a little bit more sense. I mean, I love Porzingis. I've loved him since before he even came out. He actually pulled out of the draft in 2014, and I'm like, man, this guy's really good. We all had a really hard time processing that, because you see so many guys that look like Kristaps just not work out. And I think the fact that he's still been this good with Derrick Rose is a huge sign for his career, because you think, oh, no, he's going to be with Melo and he's going to be with Rose, and Rose wasn't exactly great in their last season with Chicago. Like, they ended up getting rid of him because he and Butler couldn't play together, but Rose has shown glimpses in the way he's attacked the rim that, look, he's never going to get back to that MVP guy, but he's showing more burst than I think he has in a really long time. So, there's a lot of non-essential drama to this with the Phil stuff and the Melo stuff lately. I just look at them and go, there's no way, and, Noah, you hope he can keep it going as far as his health, but there's no way this team, based on those 4 guys, should be outside of the top 8 if they're all healthy.
Hey, Ryan, if I told you that the Warriors would not win the West and the Cavs would not win the East, who would you put up against each other in the NBA Finals this year?
So I can't have those teams. I have to look at the rest of it.
Yeah.
I thought the Clippers would make the Western Conference Finals, and it looked like I might be onto something with that, with their defense. But look, they against Golden State last week. It's so glaring how brutal it can be. Even though I love Chris Paul, it can be really stagnant. And you'll see it be Paul, and then you'll see it be Blake, and then you'll see Redick maybe running off of one screen. And I think those kinds of teams can become a little easier to guard in the playoffs. So I'll go with San Antonio. And in the East, I don't want to pick Toronto, even though I think they're clearly the number 2 team, because I started building them up a little bit last year. We were on TV and talking about them. But I just don't trust those dudes in the backcourt. As great as Lowry and DeRozan are, they're awful shooting in the playoffs. Like, this is a disease they both have. So until they show that they're symptom-free of that, I don't think I would put them in there. I'm not as big on Boston as everybody thinks I am because I'm from the area. I've actually been surprised they've been this good. So let me go with I can't say the Knicks, though. Yeah,
I know. I mean, really, like, out of the East, it just seems like it's going to be a cakewalk for Cleveland. And I was thinking at the beginning of the year, Boston would be the team of resistance, but I don't know where else to go if it isn't Cleveland.
I don't like Boston in the playoffs. It's like Al Horford's one of my favorite players because I think when you really watch him, you appreciate all these little things that he does. He's all about, a lot of people want to be about team and they think it's a cool Instagram post, but he truly is one of those guys. You know what I mean? And I still don't really like them in the playoffs that much because Isaiah Thomas can't be your best player. I mean, he's an incredible story. The fact of where he was drafted, everybody overlooking him, but he's in an optimal situation where he can be like the number 1 option every single possession, so he puts up massive numbers, and the efficiency still is actually pretty good, but I think that becomes easier to deal with in the playoffs. So despite how impressed I've been with Boston for a year plus now, I don't really know that they're designed right now to be a team that's going to knock off better teams in the playoffs.
Ryen Russillo, we've enjoyed spending some time. Thanks for getting back with us. I know we've tried to connect a couple of times. Finally glad that we did, and we'll talk to you down the road. Appreciate a few minutes here on Big Board Sports in Albany.
Thanks, Ryen.